In this video, I want to talk about a topic that, in my opinion, creates a lot of problems and frustration with the American people, and that deals with issues of party loyalty and special interest influence. You hear a lot about people complaining that there's only two parties. You've got the Democrat and the Republican Party, and periodically you'll find that there are third parties that crop up but really don't get a whole lot of traction. At least that's been the case throughout history in this country. But you also at the same time have a lot of interests in our country, businesses, organizations, and so forth, who petition or lobby the federal government for certain tax breaks, certain advantages, certain legislation which will help them, and so forth on down the line. Now, I want to stay away from party bashing and special interest bashing, because to affiliate with a certain party isn't necessarily wrong, or to have a legitimate issue as a corporation or as an organization that you want to petition the government for. That's part of one of our rights. The First Amendment talks about being able to petition, your government for redress of grievances, but to have access to your government to lobby for things that you think are appropriate. But here's where the problem comes in. When you have such a small House size of 435, what that does is it makes each individual representative more important as the population increases. And in particular, as government spending and the amount of things the government is involved in increases, that makes the pot of gold or the pool of dollars or resources or whatever you want to describe it as something very attractive to people who want to lobby or petition the government for some things, special interest favors and so forth. But what this 435 number has also done is it's created such a huge barrier to entry in the way of how much money it takes to run for political office. Did you know that in the election cycle for 2008, the House elections that were about a year and a half ago, it took around $1.4 to $1.5 million to successfully win a congressional House seat. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money. And to think that some common, average, everyday American business person or farmer or teacher or somebody else in the community can marshal the kind of resources to get that kind of money and have that be independent and constituent driven is incredibly difficult. So you've got such few numbers of House reps, but you've got such a huge amount of money chasing those few House seats that it takes a lot of money. So what do candidates do? They go after party, because the Democrat or the Republican Party can provide a lot of funding and resources to candidates who are running for office. So here's what we have is a dynamic. Because of this small House size, we have a dynamic of money being so important and interests of businesses and groups in the country in the way of special interests coming to these few representatives, and of course the Senate is involved in this as well, but we're talking about the House, that these people with party loyalty and with special interests create a disconnect and a separation between you and me, people back home, the constituents, those who allegedly are being represented in Washington, so that our interests, our concerns, our voice gets heard. You now have an allegiance where these representatives shift their focus to what does the party say? Because I need to satisfy the party to some degree so that I can get funding. And what do special interests say? Because they are also very influential when it comes to spending money to favor a certain candidate over another. So this is all a result of having a small, inappropriately small House size. So just for sake of example, let's say we double the House. Instead of 435, it's now around 900. What you then do is you keep the amount of dollars and interest chasing House reps, but what you've done is you've expanded the supply by 100%. So what that does is by diffusing the attention of party, the attention of special interest to a broader group of people, what it does is it creates on the continuum, and I don't know what the right number is of the House size, but on the continuum, it starts to shift these reps from focusing on what the party says and what special interests say, and it starts to shift them closer to what are my constituents saying? What are they interested in? What kind of voice do I need to represent them with? And so again, these are two very powerful parts of our political system. Party loyalty, having to curry favor with and have support from the party, but also special interests. And these two forces, because they've gone unchecked with this frozen House size, have become an increasingly larger and larger problem, creating that barrier between interest of the few with the interest of the many, the constituents back home. So this is one of many advantages that if we were to have a larger House size, which again admittedly is going to be far more equal, but also from a practicality standpoint will create a more effective government and a government closer to the people.